Hello friends, my name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed into the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. Whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the petition for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the petition for redress of grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Jessica Saxton again to talk about some updates of what's going on and, with all the stuff that's going on with you and the fight for the children. So welcome back to the show and introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. My name is Jessica Saxton. I'm the founder of Justice Without Limits, even though I say all the time that this movement is Operation We the People, and that Justice Without Limits is just a mechanism that was given to me years ago, before it is what it is today, and it was placed basically in my lap by God to be used for this time and this purpose. So thank you for having me again.
All right. So, yeah, there's been a lot been going on since the last time we talked. You want to kind of catch us up on a little bit of what you've been doing in the last few weeks?
Yes. So we have effectively been able to, county by county, there's 4 counties in particular that we've been able to investigate. And the things that I'm going to tell you are very surface level. So feel free, viewers, to let your mind kind of run as far as investigative work is concerned. We've effectively been able to tie sheriff's departments, the judicial branch, attorneys, guardian ad litems, clerk of courts, and other county administrators into what I would consider, and what other people in law enforcement would consider to be, the criminal conspiracy that we've all been talking about for many years. A lot of this is, I would say, atypical investigation for citizens to do, but we do have confirmation this is very important for your listeners, we do have confirmation from people who matter that say that we as the citizens, we have more investigative power than most of three-letter agencies. So three-letter agencies and their agents, to some degree, are capped as to what they are able to go and investigate. Now, when I say investigation, I'm not a PI, I'm not licensed to do anything. Everything that we have gathered is what you call OSINT, which is open source intelligence, meaning that you, me, neighbor down the street, we all have access to this type of information. And so the problem that we run into is people being willing and able to go out into their county and get this information. And that's one of the things that Justice Without Limits is attempting to inspire, educate, advocate, and assist individuals in being able to go and do the same type of investigation in their local county.
So you're saying that people should go in and investigate in their local counties. What would you suggest to people if they want to start digging into what is going on, like with the corruption? Because a lot of people are dealing with this. So what would you suggest?
I would suggest, so let's consider how our government works. They're all buddies, they're all pals, right? They all hang out together, they drink together, they golf together, they do everything together at that local level. So what we should really be doing is working with our local neighbors, the people that we trust, the people that are kind of in this same fight, whether they're in family court, juvenile court, dependency and neglect, probate court, criminal court. So reach out to those people in your community and start building a relationship for multiple reasons. I'll get into this in a second, but for multiple reasons. Really and truly, the magic number, I would say, that was recently confirmed is 6. And so if you can get 6 people in your county, doesn't have to be before the same judge, but just 6 people in your county who can prove deprivation of rights under the color of law, that is Title 18 USC subsection 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law, and conspiracy to deprive of rights, that's 18 USC 241. If you can get 6 people in your county to confirm that the judges that you were before deprived you of your rights and conspired with someone else to deprive you of your rights, then what we can do is we can collectively take that information, produce a dossier, which dossier is just a fancy word for a long document. You know, Dale and his daughter has been producing a dossier, is what that is, for the redress of grievances. So we can produce a dossier outlining all of the crimes that have happened to you and your family, and we can take that to the appropriate federal agency and submit that as evidence, deprivation of rights under the color of law, and conspiracy to deprive of rights, and attempt to get that county under investigation.
Yes, and so what with people like some people are ready to throw their hands up in the air because they're like, well, everybody's corrupt, so we can't do anything about it, and so forth. But that is what allows people to get away with what they're doing. So what would you, for example, say to somebody who had their law enforcement, for exactly in some cases, are involved in doing the crime? So what do you say to that? What do you say to them?
Document it. Document everything that you can. Never underestimate the power of your phone and any other type of recording device. And I've said this maybe on your podcast the last time, but when you consider the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, back when it was written, the right to bear arms clearly meant some type of black powder. That's what they intended at that time. However, the United States Supreme Court has consistently said that the Constitution should evolve with technology. They've confirmed this. So if we were to consider the Second Amendment and our right to bear arms to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, then we would have to say that our phones, our recording devices, especially in situations where the government's recording us, we have a right to record them. We have a right, Second Amendment right, to record and document crimes that are happening right in front of our faces. And so we're pressing hard on this to be sure that we can have phones and recording devices inside our hearings. these judges have been operating behind closed doors, behind the children. You know, they seal a case, they close cases. I was in Tennessee just a few weeks ago, and one of the judges, he called me up, he swore me in. I was literally there to watch court. Now, granted, in Tennessee, I'm a little bit targeted because I've been calling out Tennessee for many months, but he called me to the front, he swore me in, and then he started asking me why I was there. And I'm like, I'm just here to exercise my right to a public hearing. He's like, well, this isn't a public hearing because it's about children. I'm like, oh, okay. So you guys can just close the doors, throw out any type of court watcher because you want to hide behind the children. It's the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, that being said, for the people that were allowed to be in court that day, I wish that they would have had either the lack of fear or the confidence to be able to stand on, hey, Mr. Judge, hey, Miss Judge, I have a Second Amendment right. Are you here today willing to infringe upon that right in open court and not allow me to bear an arm, which is my recording device, in order to protect me from tyranny? So there's a lot of different things that we're pushing, I think, collectively. It's not just me, it's not just you. There's a lot of people that are feeling this, a lot of people that are coming out, being removed from that fear that has held them captive for literally decades. We're seeing this collectively across the board. And so just want to encourage people that if you have been scared for years, now's not the time to be scared. We're starting to see a lot of law enforcement officers from within that are starting to blow the whistle on the good old boy system, on the people that they've been working with or taking orders from. And now they're standing up and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. I didn't swear an oath to the sheriff. I swore an oath to the United States Constitution, and that's what I'm going to follow. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I think that people have to understand that, yes, you need a document, but then you also need to do something with it. Because if you're corrupt, then you have to get someone else to deal with the corruption in your area. Because some areas are worse than others. And in smaller places, they seem to have a lot more control. So then this is where taking the different pathways, because there's going to have restraint come on these people. And it needs to come very fast, because when people sit down and say that, oh, well, this will take time, I'm like, well, what's happening to all these children that are getting raped and destroyed, right? Like, I mean, every day it's worse, but if you're sitting down saying, oh, well, it's going to take a few years, well, what's going to happen when, a child's with a few years with pedophiles, and how many children are there, and the amount and the widespread nature of this, how many children are going to be like destroyed over that period of time? Because they don't need forever. They just need enough to destroy the generation mentally.
That's true. I didn't think about that. I think that collecting the evidence, you're right, that is just a first step. But if you don't have that evidence, you have nowhere to go. After the evidence is collected, I have been telling the people that join our Zooms, especially, and some of our core leaders, you need to document this and then save all of that evidence in multiple places, in multiple different varieties of saving a document. So whether that's on a cloud or multiple clouds, flash drives, and then if it's something that you can print, you definitely want to start printing this stuff out. And then keeping those flash drives and the material in multiple different locations, so that if you are raided, I mean, we have people that are swatted all the time. And when I say all the time, I'm talking about every day. They're swatted, their houses are raided, and many times they have no warrant. These officers are not even told why they're going there to SWAT these homes. They don't know what they're looking for. But in the event that you have one flash drive with all of your evidence and that flash drive's taken, it's gone. It literally is gone, everything you've been working for. So multiple locations in multiple forms, and don't underestimate these people, because we effectively, I think that we're being effective at this. We're effectively taking down a system that was set up, one, for failure, and two, to come against the people in such a time as this. So just don't underestimate your enemy. I don't. Everything that I've collected, we have it saved in multiple locations across multiple servers, multiple flash drives, print form when that's an option, and then everything else. I mean, so they'll never be able to get rid of the evidence that I have at this point.
Well, and I mean, it needs to be, yes, everybody has to make sure that you secure evidence, because if you don't have any evidence, then you don't have a case. And like, they'll just try to brush you off like you're nuts and be like, oh, well, whatever. Because that seems to be the common theme here, is what ends up happening when they're too problematic. They will say that you're crazy, or they will try to put you in prison, or whatever the case may be. So you want to make sure that that evidence is there, and then get to put it where it needs to go. And this is one of the things that we're doing, is putting the congressional record so that they can do something with it. And I don't think that I think most of the politicians are corrupt, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, there comes a time where the politicians need to start fearing the people more than they fear the people that are behind them. And that's really what it is. And that's never going to happen while you sit down on your hind parts, because when you go in and start recording what's going on, taking notes, taking pictures, people are going to start getting squeamish, or more people start doing it because they want to keep everything quiet. Then they get upset. And then you just keep going with that. You don't just stop there, because then you start taking to the people that should be dealing with this, like your local sheriffs, your police officers, your local politicians, your state politicians, your U.S. politicians. You need to take it to everybody, so everybody knows, and put it in their face, and don't let them off easy, right? Just be persistent.
Absolutely. You know, when you consider animals and you have like a dog that's attacking a human, in a lot of cases, when that human, stands up to that dog, the dog will back down, right? These people are no different. And so when they sense that you are timid, when they sense that you are fearful, that they may be able to intimidate you in some way, a lot of times it actually gets worse, and they'll bite harder, they'll snap a little bit more. And so and I've seen this personally. I mean, when I was calling Blount County, Tennessee courthouse last year, this time versus now, it's a whole different situation. When I call now, they don't answer with disgust, like, or disdain, like, I don't have time to answer you. I don't have time to talk to you. You need to call this person. You need to call that person. No, no, no. Now when I call, they answer the phone. Hello, Miss Saxton. How can I help you today? I mean, no joke. I have the recordings to prove it. And so I think that we're starting to change kind of the mindset in the people, which is one of the reasons why I've been pushing and asking people, go to your county commission meeting. Even if, some people are like, county commission meeting and providing the notices, it's not going to do anything. I beg to differ. One of the things that I have seen it doing, and I've seen this because I'm receiving the testimonials from these people. One of the things that it's doing is providing power back to the people. It's reminding the person that's there before the county commission, they have 3 to 5 minutes most of the time to say their piece, talk about what's going on in their county, whether it's with the judges, the juvenile court, the police officers, the sheriff. You got your 3 minutes. But it's doing so much more than just mere communication. It's literally rebuilding the person, reminding the person who they are within society, and that we, the people, have the power. And so this is preparing, and I believe that it's effectively preparing people to go before court as we see the pro se litigant or self-representation. It's rising in America, the most that it ever has been since the bar was established. And we're providing these people with a practice run, essentially, in public speaking, in standing before someone who traditionally we perceive them as having the power. They have the final vote, they have the final say in everything that happens in our county and our cities. And so we're kind of switching that a little bit, giving the power back to the people, allowing them to practice before they go into court. When you consider the county commissioners and your city council, how everything is laid out as far as the architecture of the property in the room, it's just like going into court. So it's a perfect place for self-represented litigants to go and practice, And so I think that I think that overall, we're just seeing a massive rise, not only publicly through advocates and people that are fine and okay speaking and doing what you're doing, but just the neighbor down the street who you wouldn't think would ever get up in front of anyone and say their piece. Now they're like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. So I think that we're in a very interesting time here. And I don't think that this is a time that history is going to forget.
No, and I think that what people have to understand when they're going into any public place, the people that are there, they work for you. You're the one who actually has the power because they're only doing their position because you let them, right? And when you don't agree with what they're doing and you don't like what they're doing, you have the power to get them out. And because that's the way it works. It's a representative form of government. And if they're doing something wrong, then they don't belong there anyway. So stop thinking that they are above you. Yes, the office of it is a position of authority, but their authority comes from the people and they're there to do your will. So keep that in mind when you're talking to them, because it's like you're walking in and you're the boss and you're telling your employees, your servants, that they did the wrong job.
Yep, absolutely. I concur. And I would like for people, if you do have 3 minutes, I would say use that 3 minutes to the best of your ability. So go ahead and practice before you go in. Some of the things that I have recently started talking about is specific to individual judges. So when I go into a county commission meeting, I will most likely be calling out a judge. And it's not because I just Googled a judge in that county and I'm just going to decide to, randomly call out a name. It's because I have received evidence that this judge has acted criminally in their position against one or more people in that county. And so, a lot of this is also about public awareness and really just bringing people within that county together. Because when you consider how, let's take any war, for instance. I mean, the Middle East. I was just watching a documentary on the Middle East and, some of this terrorism and stuff that was going on. They actually built the terrorist groups with little small pockets of nobodies. These people didn't know anything. They were literally recruited for the same mission. And because of that same mission, they were able to band together, protect each other, and then go out and unfortunately literally execute. But basically we can take that same strategy and apply it to what we're doing here, except it's just going to be lawfully and peacefully. And don't underestimate the power of your neighbor. Another reason why I'm trying to build these teams locally across the country is because in most states, you have what is called next of friend filing. And as we see, there's a pretty consistent pattern across all of the states where families that went into family court did not have any type of criminal charges, but post family court, everybody's a criminal. Everybody's been to jail. Everybody's been arrested. Something to that degree. And some of them are felony charges, and not felony charges for the right thing, like molesting a child. Is more because somebody was able to trump up some charges along the way. What we need to do is just kind of like a forward looking. And one of the things that I'm seeing here is that as we build these teams locally across all 3,143 counties in America, this is going to allow you to have a small pocket of friends that can file a habeas corpus on your behalf, given that you are able to prove to the court that this is a next of friend, right? Or that friend can prove to the court that this is next of friend. And so, just like you, Dale, you talk with a lot of people, you have a lot of friends that are kind of in this movement that would be a higher target for having these charges or being incarcerated in some manner, as am I. And so because of that, I feel like that in multiple states, I can file next of friend. My problem is that I don't have enough time to do that all across the board. And so we need to start kind of replicating that within the local county so that other people can start doing it on behalf of others. And then we all have each other's back in the
Yes.
event that we're arrested.
Yes. And I mean, there are things that people can do to help expedite the process. Like I deal with things that generate documents very quickly because I've had to compile thousands of documents over these last few years. And so I found ways to make it go a lot faster. But you still need to know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, if you're in a pinch, then you can get them to put some stuff together for you rather than having to do it manually. And like putting the appendices together is always the worst. But at the end of the day, people need to know what they're doing. This is why I did what I was doing, and I didn't charge people for teaching them this because these are skills that everybody needs to know. When people don't know what the law is or what your constitution says or how it works, you're going to get abused. And that's what happens. Most people don't understand. They're like, okay, we have all these rights, but they're abstract to them in the manner that they don't understand what it needs to take to enforce it or apply it or any of that stuff. And the perfect example is here in Canada. I mean, people are they don't understand it. They're just like, oh, well, the government can do that. I'm like, really? The government only does that because you let them do it, because you do nothing. You feel like you could do nothing. And they want you to feel like that way because then they can get away with doing things, because when all this stuff will end, we'll say, when the people says, we're done, that's really it. They can't say no to us.
Right. Yeah, I agree. One of the things that saddens me the most is when the neighbor who has not yet been afflicted by the system doesn't care. And, it's really sad. And I can't say that I wasn't one of them, because I probably was at one point. I believed in the system, and I was like, well, if you were arrested, you must have done something wrong. If you lost your kids, obviously you're a child abuser. And that is so far from the truth. It's disgusting. And so, part of this is also just educating the neighbor who has not yet been faced with CPS, because I can tell you what, right now, with the climate that we're living in, especially in America, in Canada, multiple other places, if Child Protective Services shows up at your door, I would say 98% of the time, it's too late. Meaning they're going to take your children, they're going to run you through the ringer, your savings account, what you've been working for, your home, your vehicles. You might as well just count them gone, because the system will deprive you so much. They'll send you through all of these judicial backbends and flips and things that you have to do, paying for reunification therapy. And I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I have 90,000 families who would say otherwise. And so, I think that as a collective, we just need to figure out how we can adequately educate our neighbors. Say, hey, did you know that you can take your child to school when they're in the 4th grade? And it's very likely that CPS comes in, a social worker comes in, talks with your child, and you will not see that child until after graduation, when they turn 18. Because it happens every day. It
Yeah.
literally happens every day in America.
Yes, it does. And people have to understand that this is a big issue, and it's an issue that affects everybody, because people have to understand the way the concept of liberty works. Liberty only works if your neighbor has it. If you're 20 people around and they took somebody's liberty in front of your face and you stood there and did nothing, guess what? You all agreed by doing nothing that you consent to having privileges. And then the government's just going to come back and come at you one by one until you guys are all bending the knee to the state, which is not the way that's supposed to work. Right?
Yeah, that
And
is so true.
Let's just take
Would they be an accomplice to the crime?
Yeah,
'Cause,
yes.
think about it. If I watched someone murder someone else and I did nothing about it, they would charge me.
Yeah, you can't
Also.
stand there. You can't stand there and let people do crimes and do nothing. You can't. That's
Yeah.
very, very problematic, right? And it's like you're letting them get away with this. Just let's take a short break and we got to play a commercial. We'll be right back.
Perio, co-founder of Mark37.com. I spent my career in Silicon Valley working for high-tech infrastructure companies, and I've witnessed firsthand the surveillance apparatus they've built. Most of you already know we're in a digital war right now, but are you really aware that we're trying to fight this war with the weapons and tools of the enemy? That Android or iPhone in your pocket, that MacBook or Windows laptop, it's a tracking device feeding everything you say and do to companies that want you under their control or eliminated entirely. Every text, call, location, even how long you pause on a post, they track it all and use complex algorithms to then use this data to manipulate your behavior. If you knew someone hacked your devices and was selling your data without your consent, you'd be furious and terrified. So why are you okay with these companies doing this to you right now? Here's what they don't want you to know. There is another way. At Mark37.com, we offer phones, laptops, tablets, and even basic flip phones, all running systems big tech can't access unless you explicitly give them access. And what's even better is you also don't need to sacrifice productivity. I'm one of thousands of geeks mobilized across this country, building tools and providing education and support to help you live anonymously online before they enforce digital ID. Go to mark37.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute digital privacy consultation. Join hundreds of thousands who have decided to stop feeding their data to companies actively working to enslave us. Take back your communications. Take back your data. And may God bless you on your journey.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to go to mark37.com, you can use the promo code CARES and get a 5% discount. I got myself one of the ghost phones because I don't like them taking my data. And I live in communist Canada where the government will go to the big companies and take your data, or they'll just send the police and take it without warrant, because they said that they tracked during COVID 33 million cell phones without warrant. That's a lot of crime, right? So, yeah. People need to protect themselves. So, kind of back
And
to what... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I talked to Sean really fast. I talked to Sean, and he was such a pleasant individual to speak with. And he basically gave me that free consultation. And just in the 30-minute conversation that we had, he already was pinpointing ways that I'm epically failing at, digital security. So please, if anybody's listening, just go and talk. Sign up for that free consultation. You will not regret it, for sure.
Oh, yes, because at the end of the day, we have to protect our information. I mean, at some points, they will get access to us at some point, but we want to make it very difficult for them. We need to put up resistance at every turn, right? Because, I mean, they can spy on you in public, but at the end of the day, make them work. Don't hand over anything to them. And kind of going back to this and so forth. So what you talked about, the investigations and so forth. So you said that they had different counties involved under investigation by like federal agencies?
No, not so. All I was saying is that I did get confirmation that you need 6 people, that's basically 6 victims within a county kind of saying the same thing about some judges will help to spark an investigation at a federal level. Because for whatever reason, one-off doesn't matter. They want to see the patterns within the counties. And so with that, we have the names of 3,000 judges, a little over 3,000 judges, and attached to those judges are 3,000 plus victims. And when I say plus, because most of the parents that submitted this evidence are one, if sometimes both parents, and then you have the child victims. And so if you consider that an average household in America has, 2.5 children, so 2.5 children, so we'll just say 2. So you're looking at 3, on average, 3 victims for every judge that I have that's named. That's a lot of crimes. And when you have the adults that are willing to testify under penalty of perjury that these judges have violated their rights and conspired with others in that county to violate their rights, that's a big number. I mean, technically we have over 4,000 individuals that submitted this evidence, but 1,000 of those, a little less than 1,000 of those, were duplicates within the same counties. So we pretty much have America covered when you consider there's 3,143 counties in America. Very interesting times, interesting data that we've been able to collect over the last couple of months. We still have that survey opened up. If you have not completed the survey, and this is the same survey, guys, it's the same one, so please do not bog down the data. If you have already completed the national survey on Justice Without Limits, do not do it again. If you have not, please go ahead, go to justicewithoutlimits.org. On the homepage, just scroll down just a little bit. It's right under the Zoom link. Click on that link. You'll be able to go, and it's a very brief survey. It's not going to take you 40 minutes. You could literally do it in less than 10 minutes. I think it's like maybe 6 questions. We did add really fast. So we did add Washington, D.C. to that survey because that was not included. And we added all of the United States territories. So like Puerto Rico, Cuba, some of the other islands that for whatever reason, I did not consider them. We're expanding that into the U.S. territories.
The funny thing when you mentioned about the 6 people to complain about a judge to get something, the matter looked at by somebody in a 3-letter agency. I was getting people to do this before. I got a lot of resistance, and I'm doing something in a similar manner by showing the repeating pattern across courts at multiple levels, showing that you're seeing the same thing. Because this is literally how you catch criminals, by watching these types of patterns of behavior. And you could demonstrate it. And when you have repeating patterns across like every court, no matter what type of court it is, you're seeing corruption. And then that means something needs to be done. This is why I encourage people to bring your evidence forward. You might be afraid and so forth. I get it. But this here is how they keep people in these situations. And then they get away with it. This is like the same type of like mafia tactics where you really beat the crap out of somebody, make an example out of them. And everybody's like, I don't want none of that smoke, so I'll just duck my head. But this isn't the mafia. It's the government that's doing this. And so who do you have to call if nobody's there to help you? You have to do it yourself, right?
Do it yourself. Band with the others in your community. Buddy systems, buddy check systems, those are really good. And we can't do it all. I think a lot of people look at these advocates, especially the ones that have a big following, as like a savior. We're not saviors. Nobody's coming to save you. Literally, you have to do this yourself. And we're here to help. And I'm only one person. Dale's only one person. All of these advocates for only one person. We can't even hardly keep up with the private messages, much less messages on Facebook and trying to respond to the public comments. And so it's a lot, but banding together, that's going to be your strongest point. Literally set up. You remember back in the 90s, you had like a telephone tree where something happened to one person in your family and that person called 3 other people and let them know, hey, grandpa died or whatever. Same type of situation needs to happen with technology, and text messaging is a lot easier, but definitely have that emergency list, emergency contact. If I get arrested, I have one person, and these are things that I have. If I get arrested, for instance, I have one person that I'm going to call. That one person has a list of 5 other individuals that they are going to call. And those 5 people have a list of 5 other people that they're going to call. And all of those people know exactly like what to do. Like, for instance, I have a I've been arrested video that is just waiting for me to be arrested. And then, they'll have access to that and they'll post it. They'll distribute it on social media. Same type of thing, especially in this climate, because I'm waking up every day and there's a mom arrested. There's a dad arrested for nothing. They haven't committed a crime. They're just being targeted. Same type of thing with people that are on the brink of suicide. We have, I don't know what the rate is. I was about to say we have the highest suicide rate, but I think that I might be twisting that a little bit in my mind just because I'm getting a lot of the reports. But we have so many parents that are suicidal right now because the system has taken their children unlawfully. Good parents, PTO parents, the parents that would never miss a game to save their own life, the parents that were always there. And the state came in, took their children. Now they're literally selling them on the auction block. It's called adoption. It's an auction block. They're selling these children on the auction block from good, fit, healthy parents. And then the parents are suicidal. I mean, there's so much work to do. Sometimes I don't know where to start. That's why I have a list that I try to get done every day. But the people in the local counties, I keep focusing on the counties because it's almost a life or death situation now for American families, that people start stepping up, building their local team, be willing to go and speak, be willing to go to court with people, be willing to file a petition on behalf of another individual, be willing to call out a judge after they have bared witness in court that this judge committed treason, violated someone's rights, obstructed justice, tampered with evidence. I mean, the list can go on and on. If you see that, don't just walk out of court and think that someone else is going to handle it. Write a report, write a complaint, and go and submit it to that state's judicial board of conduct or to the bar or the attorney general. Submit it to someone. But that evidence literally could save not just your children, but someone else's children or someone else's grandchildren. I mean, the generational harm that we're seeing right now is unprecedented, in my opinion.
Yes, the harm is there. It's going through the roof, and it needs to be stopped quickly. And I can't stress this enough, that people need to get engaged, and they need to do it quickly. The amount of time that people think that they have, they don't. And the more time that we take, and this is what people have to understand, the more time that we take, the more suffering that happens to children, and we damage the future generations and make it harder for them to recover. So while people are like, oh, well, yeah, it'll take 15 or 20 years, 15, 20 years of this, our future is cooked. Like, I mean, that's like end of humanity type thing, because my daughter she was molested. I had to deal with that. Now, if you have one parent and you have 4 of your kids traumatized, you know how hard that is? One is hard enough, but if you have 4, it becomes harder. And then the time that you're taking away to help your kids, you're not doing other things. So everybody is suffering downstream. This is why these people are just drawing it out, because they understand that the damage that they're doing now, you're not going to see the most of that damage for 20, 30, 40 years down the road when that kid's an adult. And that's the whole point. And this is why these people that are behind this is not accident. I don't care what any people say, oh, well, no, systems run by people, and people understand what they're doing, especially the men that are doing this. They understand, because you see, we're the protectors, and we see downstream farther than the women do, especially in situations like this. And this is deliberate intent, because you wouldn't do this unless you wanted to, because I can't sit down and leave a situation for a kid to be in that situation. And all of these people, I've got no more patience for them, no more excuses from them. You did what you did. You knew what you were doing, and now you're going to deal with it. And the people that are being pressured, you need to start talking up. Otherwise, you're going to get the same fate as those people who are deliberately doing this. There's really no mercy anymore. None whatsoever.
No, people ask me often, they're like, Jess, I don't know how you keep going. I don't know how you can do this, all things. Well, for one, my children, but for two, because I have been made aware of some of the most atrocious crimes against children. And a lot of them have been at the hands of law enforcement, at the hands of these judges. These judges knew that these crimes were happening against the children, and they decided that they were going to either leave them in that abusive relationship or put them into another abusive relationship. And that is actually what keeps me going, because, all of this stuff, sleeping in the vehicle, sleeping in random hotels, that's nothing compared to a child that tonight, literally tonight, will be raped, sodomized, molested. You have some satanic ritual abuses where they are cut. Their blood is useful to these satanic ritual pedophile fucks. And that is literally what keeps me going. It keeps me going so much that I don't sleep a lot at night. But when people are considering whether or not they should stand up or whether or not they should do something, I keep going back to, if you ever thought that your child was going to be in that type of a situation, what would you do today? Because odds are that at some point your child will be in that situation. I mean, when you look at the statistics, this is the government's own statistics. You can go to the Child Bureau of Investigation. You can look at how many children they have had removed and put into state custody over, I think it's like the last 18 years or whatever. Aside from the last 2 years, because they haven't reported. I think the last time they reported was in 2023, if I remember right. So 2024, 25, they haven't even reported this, which is major red flag. But when you consider it did all the numbers, ran all the data, and I'm like, are you telling me that 7 out of 10 children at some point in their lifetime will have some sort of interaction with the state agency, as far as like CPS, being put into foster care, being put into some type of temporary home, juvenile detention centers? And the answer to that is yes. 7 out of 10 children. That's what our government's own numbers are showing. Go to your nursery in your church and look at the 10 children in your nursery and pick out which 7 you want to go to experience that. Because if you have 4 children, that means at least one of them is going to be there. And guess who didn't stand up? Guess who turned a blind eye to all of these families who were harmed and being hurt by the system because nobody else cared?
Well,
that's where we're at.
You have to sit down and think that they taught people to just blindly trust police, right? To see a police officer that he's there to help. No, you can't do that. And that's a problem. Like, sure, it would be nice to trust every police officer, but you can't. Because a lot of those police officers are pedophiles and protecting pedophiles. So there's no more, like, it could be understood. Maybe if you were in a small town, everybody knew them and you knew their families and that kind of stuff. Well, then you could sit down and say that, but just trust somebody. Yes, you want to respect the office of law enforcement because of what they do. But you still have to understand that each one of those people are a person and can make good choices and bad choices. And so you cannot just expect blindly that you can just put your children in their hands without questioning them or questioning their authority. I'm not the authority, but questioning what they're doing while the child is under their authority. And that's what people have to start realizing, right? Because
the indoctrination starts in our public schools, which is another thing that we're getting ready to start approaching, is the school boards and the Board of Education, because these people are grooming our children along the way in multiple situations. Like, boys can be girls and girls can be boys, and somehow it's okay. But when you consider how they're grooming our children regarding the system, the police officers, and they kind of group police officers in with firemen and EMS and all of the good people, the people that save your life. And I'm not saying that there are not good officers out there and good law enforcement, because I know that there are very good ones out there. But this grooming has started in our public schools, and they're teaching these children, go to law enforcement. And I actually taught my children differently after I became aware, and before they took them from me. After I became aware, I'm like, look, if a law enforcement officer comes up and talks to you and starts questioning you on things, Adeline, Wyatt, what do you need to say? What crime did I commit, officer? And I know it's a little far out there, but these are the type of things that I feel like that parents should be at least made aware of, and then you can make the parental decision how you're gonna teach your children. And I would always tell Wyatt and Adeline, I'm like, look, you always need to be respectful. You always make sure that you're respecting these people, because a lot of them are good, but the bad ones are typically really bad. I mean, I've not really found anyone in law enforcement that's like in the gray area, honest to goodness. And I have talked with a lot of individuals and people that have retired from law enforcement who are basically reporting back the same thing. They are either really good or they're really bad. And there's not really a gray area. The people that are in the gray area, they end up falling off and they retire, they go get another job, or because they didn't really care, One more thing about this regarding law enforcement. We have a lot of whistleblowers. That blue line is really thin. We have a lot of whistleblowers that are coming forward, both active and people that have either retired or they were removed for whatever nefarious reason. But we have a lot of whistleblowers from within law enforcement that are coming forward and saying, I know this, I know that this happened, I know all of the intricate details of who is doing what, where they're doing it, and how they're getting away with it. That's huge for us right now, because in that event where it's like, all right, CPS is at our door, we're going to call law enforcement because CPS is literally kidnapping our children under the color of law. Where are the good officers that are coming in and they're going to stand between CPS, a state agent, and the parents, and that agent, do you have a warrant? Do you have probable cause to take this child? Like, what are you doing? Because CPS agents, they're like the modern day Gestapo. They can come in and take your child in many states without a warrant. Found out in, what county was that? Up in Kentucky. I think it was Fayette County. So like the Lexington area. They had an order that was signed by a judge that CPS for multiple years had copied. It was just an open order. CPS copied that signed order, and then they were able to write whatever they wanted on that copied order, and that they would use that to go and take children. And I'm like, why aren't those people prosecuted? They literally kidnapped children. Many of them to this day have not been returned.
Oh yes, and this is it's out of control, and the police are supposed to restrain people like the CPS, right? The police are supposed to restrain anybody who is breaking the law. Anybody, doesn't matter who it is. That's their job. Law enforcement, doesn't matter if it's a member of law enforcement, if it's a judge, if it's a politician, if it's the guy across the street, the hobo, whoever. If you're breaking the law enforcement's job is to investigate you when you're committing crime and arrest you. And that's, they need to have a fresh reminder of this, because this has been going on this way for far too long. And so,
absolutely,
yeah. So are the whistleblowers, any of them coming out publicly, or are they just behind closed doors?
Right now, they are just delivering evidence as fast as they can, but they will come out. They will speak about this publicly. I think once we see another Operation Greylord, like Operation Greylord 2.0. So to your viewers, just Google Operation Greylord. It'll describe it a lot better than I can. But basically, in the 1980s, Operation Greylord was an investigation in Cook County, Illinois. That's the Chicago area. And FBI came in, raided, search warrants, arrest warrants, just the whole thing. They took down several judges, people within law enforcement, attorneys. I mean, it was quite a big deal. None of us really know about that now because we didn't have social media back then, but go look it up. Interesting. So what we're kind of pushing for here is an Operation Greylord 2.0. And we just need to make a modern day example out of some of these criminals, because our own government is operating like a mafia, for one. The criminal racketeering enterprise that's going on in the local counties would make most average person's head absolutely spin. You would look at, like some of the mafia, like who was that? Rudy Giuliani, like when because he took down some of the mafia in the 70s and 80s. That's what he became famous for. when you look at how they were operating, you can take everything within that mafia and just apply it to our government and be like, there they are. As a matter of fact, you'll be interested in this. An attorney general in the middle district of Tennessee, you can look it up on justice.gov. He came out and he produced a written statement that basically said that according to Tennessee's own monopoly laws, that most of the attorneys that are in these local counties, that they have broken that antitrust law, and that they effectively could be charged for it. Now, when we think about what's getting ready to drop, which a lot of people don't know this, in July of this year, July of 2026, every state is mandated to have what is called a fraud prosecutor. So you have your prosecutors and they prosecute pretty much everything, but there's one prosecutor for every state that must be established, and that prosecutor is going to prosecute only for fraud. Now, I suspect that they thought that they were going to maybe be going after white collar crimes and fraud within, the medical system and a lot of different elitist type fraud. What we are going to do is basically inundate that fraud prosecutor with government fraud. So Title IV, anything dealing with Title IV-D, E, Title IV funding, all of the social security benefits that they are drawing on by taking our children, all of that is fraud. And so we're working towards that. We have a couple of weeks, obviously, before July 1st, but that's something we're going to talk about that actually tomorrow on our Zoom. The JWL, Justice Without Limits Zoom, it's every Sunday at 4:30 Eastern. Go to the website. The Zoom link is right there. You just hop on at 4:30 Eastern and join. We're going to be going over that tomorrow in detail.
Yes, and a lot of that is like fraud is tied to money laundering and all that stuff, because what they were doing is running a criminal enterprise in the government and using that to legitimize their criminal activities. And this can't happen. Like, anybody who thinks that they're never going to be affected by this is deluding themselves, because you are. Your government's filled with criminals that are working against you, and it's only a matter of time till it hits your doorstep. And if you let the people that are fighting now go down, there's going to be nobody left to fight when you're by yourself and they're coming to drag you out to do whatever they want to do to you, right? That's really where all there is to it. And so,
when you go to
go ahead.
When you go to the Holocaust Museum in DC, when you walk out, that there's one last quote on the wall, and it was a quote by a pastor, and he said, "When they came after the Unionists, I didn't fight for the Union because I wasn't a Unionist. When they came after the Jews, I didn't fight for the Jews because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came after the Democratic Party, I didn't fight because I wasn't a Democrat." And he said, "And then they came after me, and there was no one left to fight for me." And we are right now in that situation where the people that are fighting, they are trying so hard to take us out. I mean, I've had multiple death threats over the last couple of weeks, and I thought for some reason I wasn't ever going to get death threats because other people have, and seems like it was a going theme, but I was like, I've never gotten death threats. The last few weeks, I have gotten so many death threats, actual people that are saying that I should be shot. I should be shot in the back of the head. I should be Nancy Schaefer'd. People that are going to find me and take me out. I mean, it's really getting interesting just to watch how some of this stuff goes down. Who's a double agent? Are there double agents? Are there people that I'm sure that we're infiltrated like most groups are? Are these people working for the government? Are they just pissed off, jealous advocates that like to talk a bunch? I don't know. But one way or another, if the people don't stand up and start defending their neighbors for rights that we all should have, then you're right. There's not going to be anyone left to fight for anyone in the end. So
Yes.
Now's the time.
And I would say that it was all of the above, like, of people doing this. Whatever reason they're doing, there's people that are doing it that are federal agents, some people that are disgruntled, jealous, or whatever, or some people that just like to cause chaos. That's just their nature. And at the end of the day, these criminals don't care which one it is, because it still benefits them at the end of the day, and it causes more division and so forth. Before we wrap up here, I wanted to say this. People have to understand how civil governments came to be. Civil governments came because people needed to protect themselves against criminals, right? Because some along the way, people decided, I'm not going to follow the law of God, so we're going to just band together and start committing crimes. So the people were like, well, we can't have this anymore. So they banded together and they created government to protect themselves from criminals. That's literally the reason why governments came to be. So if you want to protect yourself from criminals, this is what you need to do. And especially if the government is the ones that are committing the crime, then you have to protect yourselves by coming together in groups and dealing with this, right? That's really all there is to it. It's never going to go away. So
That is
yeah.
so true.
So what do you want? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm done.
I was going to say, what do you want to say to people? Give your 2 minutes on your soapbox to address people.
I just want to say, do not give up hope, and do not be fearful. You know, if you don't have hope, you don't have anything to live for. So I talk a lot about Nazi Germany and just how similar our government has been set up to that whole Nazi Germany regime. But when you go back to Nazi Germany and, you know, people that were in the concentration camps, I had the privilege of meeting someone who was detained in Auschwitz. I worked in hospice for a few years, and he just happened to be one of my patients. And he had dementia. He could not remember who I was from one minute to the next, but he could remember everything about Auschwitz. He could remember that they took his wife, that they took his children, he could remember everything. He described to me the people and what their faces looked like when they came in, when the American soldiers came in and literally escorted them out of Auschwitz. So that being said, you know, we're at a time here where if people collectively, if we don't stand up, I think we could slowly start seeing that happening, to where we have children that are going to be detained for no legitimate lawful reason. Really fast, I forgot to mention this as well. Tennessee is trying to pass a law right now where if a child is being removed and placed into foster care and there are no foster care parents, that they be put into a detention center, that they basically be jailed. It's unbelievable. So, losing hope. Dr. Viktor Frankl, he was in Auschwitz along with this person that I just so happened to meet, and they knew each other. And if you read Man's for Meaning, he said the people who lasted through trial and tribulation of this Auschwitz concentration camp, the people who were able to live despite all odds, were the people who had meaning to live, the people who had a reason and a meaning as to why they were here. And so if you have any type of understanding as to where our country is right now, where it's going, unless we stand as a collective against a tyrannical government who is here to kill, steal, and destroy everything that you have, then you have to stand up. That should be a reason. That should be the meaning for why we're doing what we're doing. And then the fear aspect of it, there's power in numbers. And guys, we have the numbers. Like, we have the collective numbers. If you consider every one of these advocates, all of the people who are fighting for the same thing, kind of on the front lines, we have the number. Like, we have the people to protect other people. So don't be scared. Don't be fearful. Literally, your life and your children's lives, your grandchildren's lives at this point, at this moment in time in history, depends on you. In March of 2024, I was reading my Bible, and I've read the Bible front to back, all the things, blah, 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 many, many times. And for the first time in my life, I read Esther 4:14, which is a verse that everybody talks about. For God has raised you up for such a time as this. And God has done this and God has done that. And I was one of those that would always talk about Esther 4:14b, but I would always forget about 4:14a. But if you read Esther 4:14a, what it says is that for if you stay silent, surely your people will die. That is how that verse is interpreted in the original text. For if you stay silent, surely your people will die. And then it says, for God has raised you up as for such a time as this. Don't stay silent. You cannot stay silent. Your voice, your neighbor's voice, your friend's voice, your coworker's voice, all of these voices are the most powerful tool that we have right now, in my opinion, in American history. And so use it. Use it. Practice talking, speaking, go to your county commission meeting, go to your city council, look up your state. Sometimes you got to call your state, your capital, and find out when they are having a meeting, because they make it very difficult for you to find out when their little committee meetings are happening, because they don't want you there. And a lot of the committee meetings at the state capitol will only allow for 10 people to speak for a 3-minute spiel, and it's first come, first serve. These are things that they're hiding from you so that you don't know when you can exercise your First Amendment right to free speech. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're here. We're here to help you. We're here to build you up. We're here to encourage you. We want you to know how powerful you are so that you can go and do. And I promise you, if we're able to do this, it will go down in history as one of the largest movements. I think it's going to be supreme to the civil rights movement in the 60s. And our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren will thank you for it.
Yes, I agree. And give her a follow and check out what she's doing. One of the things I wanted to say is that he also went ahead and said that you and your father's house would be cut off and God would raise up deliverance somewhere else. Right? That is the message, is that you can't allow sit around and do nothing and expect consequences. Because, I mean, think about it. God's a father. He has children. You're going to sit there and leave his children there. If somebody did this to your children, would you let them in your house? Would you leave them free of consequence? If your child was drowning and they left them there and they could have helped them, they just said nothing, did nothing, right? So keep that in mind. I will close here with a prayer, and thank you guys for coming and share this information because it's important. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy, and the hope that you have given us and the work that you have placed before us. And even though the times are challenging, give us the strength to do what is right, and bless Jessica and the work that she's doing and the others working with her and the people that are standing up that are working to help the children. And Father, I ask of you this day to help people that they would do what is right to protect children and to put aside their desires, their petty differences, and so forth, that we could protect the children who need it this most, and to protect the country so that there would be a future for the children, and that we could finish the work that you've set before us until we see you coming in the clouds, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.
All right.